Hey everyone, just wanted to do a quick video here giving my thoughts on the SRX series. The brand new series, of course, which kicked off this weekend at Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut, but of course everybody knows that this was pretty well hyped, really. I mean, I looked at the interest of videos that I made about SRX. I'm sure others here on this platform you may have seen making videos about SRX. There was clearly a lot of hype going into this, and did it meet expectations? Personally, I believe it did. Now, was it an A+? No. Very few things are. But quite honestly, I thought this was a solid A- performance, especially coming out of the gate. They had to kind of nail this race in some ways, and they really did, I thought. I think a lot of it boils down to what Tony Stewart said at the very beginning, and I think that's what a lot of people got out of it, which was Tony said, this is for fun. This is supposed to be fun. It's a fun series, and it accomplishes that. I was very impressed that the SRX and CBS Sports gave props, the due props, in my opinion, to the IROC series, the International Race of Champions. That, of course, the series that preceded this one and had a very similar concept, very similar cars, painted in bright colors. And I was really happy that they didn't ignore that series and in fact kind of passed the baton, picked up the ball and started running it down the court again. So that made me feel quite good as someone who, back in the day loved those IROC races. I lived for them as a kid. I mean, I think some of it was the fact that you got to see drivers racing each other that you normally don't get to see. But I think some of it, too, was just the fact that they're colorful, cool-looking cars, and that was a bit of a contrast to, sometimes a lot of sponsored cars, they look a little bit boring. But when you have one series running the whole show, you can paint them bright, fluorescent colors, and that's a lot of fun. And this was, again, you're going to hear that F word a lot, the three-letter F word, fun. This was fun. In fact, I kind of going back to that IROC thing, I didn't realize how much I missed having IROC, or I didn't realize how much of a gap in the motorsports realm IROC left until I watched this, because I still think, and again, I'm kind of basing this comparison off of IROC being 20 years old when I started watching it, but I looked at the SRX driver lineup and I was kind of like, is this really, is this going to be a legit successor to IROC? But honestly, when they got out there, I looked at the mix of drivers, and I thought it was really interesting, the what-if scenarios of Greg Biffle and Marco Andretti racing each other. You throw a Doug Coby in there, and then Tony Stewart and Willie T. Ribbs and Paul Tracy. Elio Castroneves, literally the defending Indy 500 winner, is driving a stock car at Stafford Motor Speedway, the first four-time winner in 30 years. He's going to be on a dirt track next week. I mean, those sort of things are just those are really cool elements to this series. And I think, at least at the beginning here, they've got a really good mix of drivers. Now, what IROC ultimately made the mistake of was going too NASCAR heavy. Now, I certainly did not think that this was too NASCAR heavy. I thought it was a really good balance with all forms of motorsport. I'd like to see them continue that, because what happens when you have a really good mix like you had with SRX is you see drivers doing things like when Marco Andretti pulled off a 3-wide pass for the lead that ordinarily you wouldn't think they'd be capable of doing, and then they really surprise you, and that's a fun, exciting element of this particular series. And yes, a few of the drivers are much older than the IROC drivers are, so I wonder how the intensity of the racing is going to continue as we continue this series past this season. And I wonder also how much continuity we're going to see between each edition of the SRX. Are they going to keep the same core drivers? Are they going to have a totally different set of drivers going forward, with probably Tony Stewart being the consistent addition every single year? That'll be interesting for me to watch. One of the most compelling elements to SRX, I thought, and I think is going to be going forward, and something that wasn't in IROC, is the addition of the local track champion. In this case, it was Doug Coby. In the future, it's going to be guys like Cody Swanson at IRP. I think Scott Bloomquist at somewhere. I don't remember if he's at one of the dirt tracks, but he's in the video game. I know that. But that element was actually super, super compelling on television to watch, because you can tell, because you could hear the crowd. That's a big thing about this series too, is that the crowd is really important. But when Doug Coby was up there mixing it up with Greg Biffle and Marco and Tony Stewart, it's like you could tell the crowd was just like really getting excited, because they're like, our guy is going to beat these, IndyCar and NASCAR drivers. This is, and I found myself rooting for him, Doug Coby, that is, because it's just like, this is the first time probably ever that this guy's raced on national TV. I think they said he did 10,000 laps at Stafford Motor Speedway. Racing's not even his full-time job, and he's getting this opportunity, making the most of it. I thought that was really awesome, and I think that's going to be awesome going forward. Now, if the track champions win every single race, I think that's going to be a little bit unfortunate, and not unfortunate for them, obviously. I think it's great that they're able to pull that off, and again, I'm going to be rooting for them, but I do want to see a star win at some point, because I think that'll help the series from a TV perspective, because the television ratings were absolutely excellent for the series. They were just a little bit higher than the IndyCar ratings tend to be, so that's great, coming right out the box and essentially being the second largest motorsport on television. That's a pretty good accomplishment. I think some of that is down to the fact that people were curious, but I think that curiosity was rewarded, so I think we're probably going to see pretty good TV numbers going forward for this series. I do have a few complaints. It's not too many, but I think there are some things I'd like to see going forward. And again, granted, this is race one, so I'm not going to be too hard on this series from that perspective, first of all. And the second perspective is that it's going to be, the series is for fun. There's not huge money on the line. There's not a lot of people's jobs on the line. We're putting cars out there purely for entertainment purposes here. So I kind of going off of that, the fun flag, as Danica and Alan Bestwick christened it. My preference would be that they don't use the fun flag, or they use the fun flag very sparingly, because you guys know my thoughts on competition cautions, and I felt like the use that they did of the fun flag, or the time that Ray threw the yellow flag, Ray Evernham, I thought it was inappropriate, because you had Coby and Biffle and Stewart, and I think it was Marco, really pretty close, and it was looking like they were going to all come together and have a really exciting race there at the end, just kind of naturally in the finale. In the second heat, I thought there was actually a point where you could have used the fun flag and it would actually benefit the racing, and that was when Michael Waltrip passed Paul Tracy and ran away, and Paul Tracy was able to kind of hold off the rest of the field, and so Waltrip just pretty much had a half lap on everybody else, and then the rest of the field was kind of just for whatever reason kind of damned behind Paul Tracy until Willie T. Ribbs crashed, and then you got a yellow, and then you had a shootout at the end of that heat. So I'm not necessarily in this series opposed to a fun flag being used sparingly, and I want to be very clear on the sparingly. Do I want to see it every single race? No. And my guess is, especially considering how much Ray Evernham has kind of listened to fan feedback, he probably heard and saw that people didn't like his timing of the fun flag, so I think we're probably going to see that evolve and change over the course of this series. So again, I can't be too hard on that, because it's race one. They're going to have some kinks. One other thing is that I do think that this series probably would benefit from a few more cars being out there. 12 is a good number, but at the same time, I think when a guy like Doug Coby wins a race, I think he should have an opportunity to continue throughout the series. I would like to see the local track champions rewarded with being able to go to these other tracks and continue to race on TV. So if you could get more than 12 cars, if you could maybe bump that up to maybe 18 or 20 cars, I think you'd also then get some traffic. You'd have opportunities to get a lot of different drivers rotated into the SRX, because I was looking on social media and I saw guys like Alexander Rossi, James Hinchcliffe, Denny Hamlin, all pretty much like suddenly they looked very interested in this possibility or the idea of racing in the SRX. So I think you're going to have a lot of interest from drivers. So I'd like to see more seats available, and I think more cars on the track will be much more exciting. Final thing before I sign off was the CBS coverage, which I thought was A+. I thought if there was one thing that was really, really good, it was the CBS coverage. For a network that claims they're not interested in IndyCar racing, they dedicated an awful lot of time to Helio Castroneves. But they say they're not interested, and apparently NBC's well on its way to signing IndyCar. But I just thought that the production quality was very high. I thought Danica Patrick was a fine analyst for this sort of thing. Did she bring a lot of super in-depth insight, like a Jan Beekes or a Benny Parsons? No. But I thought for this series she was entertaining enough. She had good chemistry with Alan Bestwick, which I thought was really important to be entertaining, provide entertaining commentary. Thought Brad Daugherty was good. I thought Lindsay Zarniak was good. I like the graphics package. I just like to see the improvement that my friend Steve suggested, which is, in the ticker, I'd like to see them add the color of the car underneath, so that it's easier to identify which driver is which. But outside of that, I thought it was a really, really solid effort for Race 1 for this new series. And again, it fills a gap. It was super entertaining. I'll certainly be tuning in. I'll continue to watch this. This is worth watching, I think. There's some problems, yes. The fun flag, we're going to have to define why and when that could come out. I think there should be some incentive for the track champions to win other than just bragging rights. I think they should continue through the series. If they win, I think they should earn some sort of a provisional entry into any race they want. Something like that. It could be fun. And I think there was a little bit too much downtime between the heats. I think they need to find some other form of entertainment to fill that time. Maybe send some bandoleros out there with the wives or something. I don't know, something fun. But outside of that, I thought it was really cool. Solid A for effort. Excited to see what SRX has in store in the future. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. This has been David Land on YouTube. I'll see you in the next video.